Hey, we are live. Welcome everyone to this episode of Incendiary, where we're going to talk to we're going to debate with Ben Fuselier over are we interested in only retaining an adult readership? So welcome, Ben, to our program.
Well, thank you so much.
Appreciate you being here. And like I said in the intro there, we are going to debate you about that topic. So you got to think a minute about which side of that argument would you like to argue?
Huh. I think I think I'd go with I'd want both adult and children.
Okay.
Smart man.
All right. Ooh, listen to that. Somebody's lobbying to be your ally. So, all right, Jake, for speaking up, what does that mean?
To me, to me personally, I believe it means that our generation is going to be on the up and out soon, and we need to get the younger generations in on it before we can kind of just disappear into the abyss.
Now, hang on. It sounds like you're already taking his side before you described if he's going to pick you as an ally.
Oh, whoops.
So tell him how that works.
Oh, okay. So, all right. Shit. I thought you had already
We got a
done that
real
with the beginning
professional
of this
spill
thing.
going on here for a
Yeah,
minute.
dude. Episode 5, you think we'd have this cleaned up by now. But,
Well, Dojo just booted me out of my role of saying what the topic is. I mean, it was a good night to do it on, but he covered that already.
Dojo's the host. He gets to take these liberties.
yeah.
Did you say he's the host?
Host?
The host?
Who's
Not to be racist,
Why?
but are you Canadian?
Why you got to be like that, Blue? Oh my goodness.
I was born this
be
way.
racist.
Just ask Lady Gaga about it.
Okay, anyway, Ben, the topic is, are we only wishing to retain an adult audience with Comics Gate Indie Comics? And since you are our guest, you get to choose either side you want to be on that topic, and then you choose one of us to be on your team, and then the other two that you wish to debate against, and it'll leave a remainder of a mediator or a...
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess you'd be my ally, I mean,
Didn't mean to make it that obvious.
Sure, you didn't.
and I'm open to I mean, I guess Dojo and Bandito would be the ones I'd want to go against cuz
Ooh,
I know the other one down there is reading a book that's very familiar to me.
Yeah, I'm really busy right now, so.
yeah.
All right, I'll put
It
this
just looked
aside.
slightly familiar.
It
Slightly.
took 2 seconds for me to wonder if that was fucking intentional or not.
Sounds good.
So you
Does that
pick
mean
the
I'm
slow one to
moderating?
be your ally.
Yeah, Blue, you mod.
Oh, dang. It means I have to interrupt people.
Oh, I think you'll find a way, Blue. I'm just saying. So actually, yeah. Speaking of Blue,
We're on the side of
might
hero.
actually have a debate this week. This could be cool.
all right. So Ben, we allow our guests to go first. So if you'd like to state your side of the argument, why you think having an audience that spans both the adults and the children, and then we'll jump in and debate you after you've made your point.
Well, sure. Basically, I mean, it just when you're talking about just basic numbers, you double your potential audience by appealing to both kids and adults. And essentially, I think, especially when it comes to something like CG, we've unfairly gained a shitty reputation because of a bunch of rumors flying about. And I think the more people we can reach with our work, the better it is for us in the long run. And that's my basic premise there, I guess.
Interesting. Well, I can counter that right away. in that the kids aren't the market anymore. I mean, we can't get them to buy toys. We can't get them to be a substantial market in any way, shape, or form just in themselves. And so trying to pertain to them, and it's never actually really been that way. Like you look at old commercials, you look at old, toy commercials that centered around cartoons. The cartoons were there definitely to kind of babysit and entertain the kids. But the commercials were geared to the parents. And even though it showed the kids playing with the toys and that kind of stuff, what it would show, what they purposely did, would show like a brother and a sister, or, all the boys or whatever playing with their toys, but playing nicely. And the parent you would see the parent in the background who's doing the dishes or cooking food or something like that. And it was meant to show that if you bought these for your kids, they would be out of your hair. But now we have found other ways to babysit our kids. We, can plop them down in front of the TV. We have almost everyone has childcare now, and
Game consoles.
Yeah, game consoles, all that kind of stuff. YouTube, we just plop them down with our phones at the youngest of ages, and the kids entertained. So we don't need to try and bring in that market, because the way that we used to market to them is no longer relevant. And as far as marketing to kids, the people who control the money is the parents. We did for a short time have a young teen market group, but now, that was us. We were that group.
So you're saying need? Are you arguing that it's not necessary, or that we
says,
should know?
The question is, are we only interested in retaining an adult readership? And I would say, and because I'm on the opposite side of this, I would say yes, we are only interested in retaining an adult readership.
Okay, so that goes from there's no need, we don't need to incorporate youngers, to we should not even bother. Correct?
Yeah,
Am I reading right?
It is a market that's no longer there, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So now who's next? TaleEnd.
Well, of course, I disagree with that. I mean, I see you placing.
Why you got to be like that? Oh my goodness!
I know, right? What kind of show is this? But
he was not born this way,
right? So I hear you placing a lot of. I'm not going to say blame, maybe responsibility on the parents to try and push them into the comics. Maybe is what I'm hearing. Because as much as, you say the commercials were aimed more at the parents, showing them how much fun the kids are having with these toys and selling them that market and everything, and what the shows used to do for those toys, it has changed, but I do not think that the market's disappeared. I think it's still there. It's just kind of just floating in the ether. It's waiting for us to retake it almost. And I think without getting the next generations into it, it's going to fizzle out. Now you will have your big names still being able to do the campaigning and Kickstarters, Indiegogos, what have you, wherever they do their fundraising at. But in the end, that the circle will become less and less if we're not getting more generations to come in.
Okay, Brian, you have books of your own. So where do you sit on this in terms of getting new generations and whatnot? Your books don't seem too multi-generational friendly.
No, as a matter of fact, I'm sort of glad that I'm on this side of the argument, because as a writer, my position is that if I am trying to reach an all ages audience, I'm going to need to censor what I'm writing. It's self-censorship. I'm not saying that somebody else is going to tell me what I can or can't put in there, but I'd be mindful of the audience that I'm trying to reach, and trying to reach a much younger audience is sometimes difficult in what I write. So, to speak to the point that Jake made about, we need new generations, I think we actually absolutely do, but we need them to be the upper teens, lower 20s, because parents aren't buying the comics anymore. I think for kids, I think that they're placating them with game consoles and YouTube and television, like Bandito said. So comic books are something that if you're seeking them, you're going to get them for yourself. And that would be the late teens, early 20s, where they've got some disposable income now. They might still be living with their parents, so they've got a lot of disposable income. They're not paying rent, utilities, etc., for the most part. So those are the fans, the younger fans that we want to reach, who are either real close to or already adults. So I think that the stuff that I write, for example, will reach those audiences, not the 10 and 12-year-olds.
Okay, so Ben, because you have a kid somewhere, I don't know, maybe in the next room. What about if somebody does want to reach, as a parent, somebody wants to reach the next generation, as using comics as a gateway to general reading?
Well, I actually don't have any kids, you know.
What?
So
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
yeah.
thinking of TaleEnd.
Yeah, he's not old enough to read yet.
Okay, as a writer, you have to put yourself in other people's shoes, like for writing dialogue. So if you could
Right.
imagine having children,
Wait. TaleEnd isn't old enough to read yet?
no, he's not. Anyway, moving on. Ben,
I'm at a second grade level, thank you.
Ben, since you seem to want to bring in the younger generation, which your book does not do, then let's go ahead and talk about what can you tell us your thoughts on reading for introducing kids to general reading through comics.
I think it's a great way to do just that, because of the fact that, like, I mean, speaking from my own experience growing up, I found that I first started getting into reading with reading comics, because comics, they're kind of a great in-between medium of watching a TV show and reading a book. It's like you kind of get elements of both of those worlds mixed together. And I think I think it really does help develop the imagination. And I think that, you know, our niche is only going to get bigger if we make things that appeal to different age groups. Because, you know, when we talk about kids, we're not just talking about one specific little group of kids. We're talking about like a whole gamut of ages.
Right, E for everyone.
Yeah. You know, like I agreed with Dojo in talking about, you know, appealing to late teens, who I would still, in my mind, consider kids. I mean, not, you know, they're on the way out of being kids, but they're still kids. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you know, and it also just, it opens you up to, I would say, different types of stories you can tell. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't refer to writing for kids as so much by self-censorship as I would by kind of challenging yourself as a writer to kind of to work within a boundary. And in a lot of ways, I think like some of the best work out there comes with writing with specific limitations put on you.
Right. Yeah, like a perfect example for me is the 7-page origin story that I'm putting in the back of issue 2 of Cobalt Brickhouse. I am having to go back and like redo some of the dialogue because I'm trying to keep the heavy cursing that I have in Cobalt out of Brickhouse, because it's supposed to be a lighter tone for those that don't want to read the more graphic stories or have the more graphic dialogue. And
hang on, Jake. What is the setting for Brickhouse? What does she do for a living?
I see where you're going with it, but I see where you're going. But
you know what, Dojo and I can just sit
argument,
back. I think you guys are going to win this argument for us.
No, my argument here is She-Hulk and Witchblade.
Go on.
There you go.
They've had them in some.
I can't think now.
More. No, they've had them in more like, you know, controversial poses or whatever, or what have you. But, you know, they always like kept it like cutesy and clean with like smoke covering the body parts, or, you know, like a nanite type ooze like covering the nipples or stuff like that. Like, it's still sexy, but it's not like just being totally vulgar. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of limitation I'm trying to do with Brickhouse. even though the setting as Dojo, is correct in it is a little risque.
So what you're saying is you're going to write within those boundaries, like Ben was talking about.
Right.
You're going to set them
Yeah,
for yourself.
and I'm not gonna
Okay.
lie, it is a challenge because I just want, I mean, in my own, just lost my train in my own fuck. But as you can tell, my like cussing is part of my
Religion?
dictionary,
Oh,
so
okay.
and you play what you can with your hand, man.
Yeah, let us go
Exactly.
back to the replay.
Yeah, but yeah, it is a challenge, but it's also a fun one because for kids, what's capturing them in the shows and on the iPads and on the phones and everything is the bright, colorful, basically setting that all these shows are giving them. Like Sesame Street is a perfect example. Nothing is just brick walls and stuff like it was in the early 80s and 90s. Everything now is like bright yellow or pinks, purples, bright colors that where kids can go ooh and ah, and those colors we use very much in comics. So I don't see how we don't have the ability to grab those younger audiences, whether they range from age 5 to, I don't know, 15, 16.
When you say younger audiences, from 5 to 15 or 16, damn, I
Well,
know.
it's
Okay.
it's a wide array. It's a wide audience. I mean, and there's books that, kids as young as 5 to 8 can read, and then preteens, and then teenage, and then young adults. I mean, look at all the crap that they've been putting out for YA now recently with DC.
I'd rather not. Thank you.
Well, I'm just saying, but you see my point. Like, it's there and sadly being bought, but we can make the better stories in our community for them.
Mm-hmm.
And kids deserve good entertainment, in my opinion, and
Most definitely.
And that's kind of the whole thing behind the CG movement is we want to provide better alternatives for people, and I think kids definitely need better alternatives because
Yeah,
I would hate being a kid right now. It would be so little to work with.
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know if Tiger Blue is vulgar or not. I haven't read it yet, but the look and the idea behind it is just mesmerizing for kids. I mean, you've got what do you call?
Chimera?
You got a anthropomorphic, protagonist, and then you've got other colorful characters like Daxon Creed, Bam Zolly, and all these other weird names, Montego Mercury.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a colorful premise, and I think it would do well with the younger audiences. It just depends on what kind of dialogue and what kind of story is being given within, within that book.
Yeah.
So Bandito and Brian, you each, not both. that would be weird. You each have children. Are your kids into comics, and if so, at what age and how did they get in?
So my kiddos have always been interested in comics. My oldest started flipping through my back issues when my long box back issues when she was 8, I think. And my youngest has loved Spider-Man since she was, old enough to kind of understand what was going on in the movies, right? So, comic books and I'm a huge nerd. There's all kinds of comic book stuff in my house, so they've been inundated with it since a very early age and have always gravitated towards it. As long as it's the older stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The newer stuff.
Are you sure you're just not allowing the older stuff only?
No, I have taken them to the comic shops multiple times.
Okay,
to
cool.
try and get them geared towards the newer stuff. And something to add to that is in my house, I tend to have they didn't have YouTube. I didn't give them cell phones till they were in their teens. I
Good
didn't, I'm not a part-time dad. I don't just plop them down in front of the TV unless we're all doing something together, at least in their early life. And, I brought them up with a lot of retro gaming and that kind of stuff as well. So they had a very similar, although everything condensed into a shorter timeline, a very similar upbringing to what I had as they got older. And they have certainly been interested in all of the things that I have grown up with. And it's a little bit deviated a little bit. Like my youngest is more into manga and anime and that type of stuff. And my oldest is more into Lord of the Rings and the, fantasy adventure stuff. Right. But
Really hitting the spectrum.
yeah, exactly. But we've had lots of stuff to explore that way. Certainly.
So with my kids, they're both grown men now, and we raised 5 together. Dee and I did, but 2 of them are my own. And Clark is more into weaponry and military and things like that, and almost always has like that sort of thing. So not really into comics, more into graphic intensive games like Call of Duty and Forza, things like that with racing. My youngest son, Pearson, is similar to me, but his tastes, like Bandito's second child, are more along the lines of Weebery, where he's into the anime. Not so much manga, but more anime and, Pokemon, JoJo's Big Adventure, things like that. He knows so much detail about those things. And, just by association, I've learned more about those things than I'd ever hoped to. but
don't worry, one of my kiddos had a Dora the Explorer phase for like 6 months. Pure hell. I totally did.
You didn't like the lyrical musings of "I'm the map, I'm the map, I'm the map, I'm the map."
If I could reach through the screen now and strangle you, just for being
right.
I need the technology.
Well, who doesn't love a villain that, you literally just tell them don't swipe 3 times and that's what stops them?
I did kind of understand, the grumpy old troll. Who lives under the bridge? The grumpy old troll.
I could identify with that one too. Yeah. So yeah, my boys have both obviously been exposed to comic books their whole lives. I've been collecting for nearly 50 years now. So they had them around them all the time, but because they weren't, the pictures didn't move for them and do things, they were more interested in their gaming systems.
Gotcha.
Which is what Bandito was saying earlier, that we should not even bother marketing because they already have too much of other stuff. It's going to be a dead market.
Yep. I agree with that.
I don't know where to go from here because
we won.
I don't have to ask questions. You guys can just say things.
So I think another reason, just looking at it from a business perspective, when it comes to selling the stuff that we're trying to sell, it is very hard to market, especially it's particularly in our indie community. It is very hard to market a 48-page book to kids for the prices that we have to make them, and to create a story that is geared towards children or visuals that are geared towards children. It's very hard to sell adults on something that could be considered overpriced when it's not going to be held as a collectible, which is what we're trying to do. We're in the business where we need to create things that are collectible, that have innate value and are more than simply just the entertainment. And when it comes to kids are specifically only entertainment. They're going to get whatever we send them and they're going to tear through it. Like, you don't even want some of these campaigns, you don't even want to give the boxes they come into to the kids because they have some cool artwork on them or something like that. And so the idea of trying to create something for an audience that isn't going to appreciate the collectability of what we're doing becomes a very significant detriment to trying to convince the parents who are holding on to the money with that purchase.
As you were talking about it, I was thinking the whole time about Starlight Cats, for example, from Shane Davis. Seemingly all ages. I mean, I didn't read it, but I'm thinking that that definitely would appeal to the kids. But for the price that an adult would have to pay to put that in the hands of their kids, are they cringing then when the kids are breaking the seam, mishandling it and all that? I mean, the book is phenomenally beautiful. I can see collecting it for its art and again, collectability, but do you want that in the hands of your kids?
Or can you imagine giving your kid the Vesbez wasp toy from EVS's line and seeing one of those legs come off?
Oh, no.
Right? So
now, come on now. We all know the difference between a toy and a collectible.
Absolutely. What I'm saying is he's not gearing them towards kids.
Right.
That is true, but the whole thing is, should we only be retaining to the adults? Should we not even try to venture out to?
For the price of putting together a toy that could be for kids, we have to get through the pay gate of manufacturing it and getting the adults to pay for it.
So let's say that money wasn't an option. Would you be more open to it?
If money wasn't an option, would I be more open to it? I would want to make sure if the audience was there for it, 100%. If the audience is there for something, 100%, I will gear myself towards that. But not only, as my first argument was that the audience isn't even there.
It might not be there right now.
See, we're crushing this dojo.
Because the whole premise is that we're focusing on the parents have to, be the ones that shelled out, or the parents are the ones that have to see that it's going to be entertaining for their kids. Now, if we're only focusing on collectibles and not actually because some of the comics that I have, just from being in high school, I've put them through the ringer too. Like I've let my friends borrow them, and you get a little, a distorted, page from, Greasy Fingers or stuff like that. That it comes with the territory. But if you're one of those that just want to collect, and then after you're done reading, put it back in its plastic bag and then put it on the shelf to collect dust, I get it. But that to me was never what comic books were. That's what it's become now in this community.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's largely attributable to the price point. I mean, when I was first buying comics and they were 12 cents, 25 cents, maybe even up to 50 cents. Ooh,
are you 107 years old?
Get off my lawn.
Back before the Federal Reserve.
We can buy 10 for $1.
I mean, when you could buy them so easily, and yeah, I mean, it's all relative, but even back then, I was able to get them on a newspaper carrier's income. So I would get those, and I would read them and beat the hell out of them, like Jake is saying. But nowadays, when you're, and we're talking about crowdfunding community here, when you're backing a book at $25, or if you're getting the catch-up tier, $50, $75, $100, it's viewed very differently by the backers. Now, in some cases, I guess you could buy one for yourself and one for the kids to read, or it could be argued you could read it to the kids, but still you're diminishing its collectability. So when you were talking about, Greasy Fingers on the comics that you let your friends borrow, the whole time you were saying that, Jake, I'm thinking to myself, which made mine go up in value because I didn't let anybody touch it.
Again, the collector's mindset.
Yeah.
But that's why I brought up the point of money not being an option. Like if we were making what Ethan, even Malin, even Fraga, any of them, if we were making that dough, would you really be worried about, putting the toys or the books in your hands when you can make almost as many copies as you want? And you can lower the price basically at that point because you've got this new budget that you can, kind of, that you can
that was
budget
always the thing for me was like if I can get Outlaw Knights to a sustainable backer level, my hope was always to kind of reduce the price a bit to make it more affordable for folks.
Right.
So speaking of getting that to a acceptable backer level, why don't we go ahead and show that on screen? Perfect timing, because after all, Bandito and I won this already, so we'll move on to.
Well, that's really.
don't
I mean,
contradict
No,
before
there's
the hatch.
there's one
That's just-
perspective I haven't heard yet. I'm just waiting for it, but I can't
I-
say it myself.
well, the idea is just that you guys are racist against children, so that's really the whole.
Well, that's
point.
ageism. Yeah, that's exactly
Well,
what it is.
Who needs ankle goblins running around like that anyway?
see, right there, racist against children. He's talking about them like they're a different race. There you go.
Sometimes the way they spoke in tongues and all that when they were teenagers, you kind of wonder.
All right. So
Hi, Ben.
we got
This
ourselves
is,
a
this is
campaign.
this is your campaign, Ben. What can you tell us about the book?
Oh,
Yeah, do you want
it
us
is.
to-
Oh,
Do you want us to start off with a trailer to get things rolling?
sure.
All right, let's do that. Whoa.
Now,
Okay,
a little
so-
bit,
Indeed.
Yeah.
a little bit of that looks familiar because your part one turned into a smaller part one on the second try campaign, and then so we're getting into part two now. So what is this going to be relative to the original larger book?
Well, essentially, this is the second half. This is,
Okay.
and it's completing the story of the original issue 1. But it in many ways, I felt like I chose a good spot to snap it because I feel like each half of the book kind of tells its own, kind of has its own little arc.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it works out really well. This one in particular is dealing with Cyrus has been kidnapped by the Pirates of Hazard, and so he's kind of getting settled in, getting used to it a little bit. He still has a chip on his shoulder when it comes to pirates, but he's learning a bit more about what these particular pirates are after, and what they're after is very dangerous, as many people around the cosmos have their eyes on this particular prize, and especially the nations of Earth. And so, as the rat race is going to seemingly be kicking up, they stop at a service station and have to encounter this dude right here, who is a pirate hunter who goes by the name Wellington, works for the British military. And so he is our big antagonist for this issue. So we're going to have some awesome bloody fighting.
And Cyrus is still our protagonist. We're still riding his shoulder.
Oh yeah, he's definitely he works well as the protagonist mainly cuz he's kind of the fish out of water.
Mhm.
So we the audience learn more about this environment through him.
Okay, I'm glad it's fine that he's sort of an everyman, but I'm glad you didn't just make him a blank slate. He is a character. So
Oh,
that
yeah.
was pretty cool to read. Nice. By the way,
Oh,
one thing.
definitely.
Okay, so the dismemberment that we saw advertised is not in issue 1. It's still coming. So
It's
there's
in
that.
issue 2, I promise.
Yeah, but it's not that I'm looking forward to it. Sometimes that stuff makes me jump a little. Like I get too sympathetic to putting myself in the victim's shoes. But moving on, we one thing I wanted to bring out was if this were more of a children's book, there's this sort of false bifurcation in the debate for today that things have to be either or instead. And I think mostly this has been addressed by Dojo Kun, saying that he has to censor himself in his writing in order to make things for a kid's audience. And it's like that might be the way we'd have to go. So as an artist, if he doesn't want to censor himself, then he doesn't do that. But that doesn't mean all of independent comics should do what he chooses to do, where some might choose to say, I don't want to write a children's book, but I can at least leave my adult story accessible to children so that they can look at it and get most of it and get the main plot and story. So that's an option I didn't hear in the debate today, which I thought was a little bit odd that we didn't hear that undoing.
I
of the
actually
bifurcation.
I thought of something along that line in that I was thinking about how, like, with certain books, like particularly like with Outlaw Nights, like I would say a 16 or 17-year-old could probably read this.
Yeah, that's a video
Um,
game cover.
Yeah, no problem with that.
Yeah, and and it's that, like, I don't push too hard into like rated R territory. I think the worst that I do is like there's a couple of F words.
Mm-hmm. And
But
sorry.
Oh no, I was
think-
just saying, like, yeah, there's just a couple of F words and like a little bit of graphic violence, but I don't really push it with like sexual stuff or anything,
And even with the graphic violence, I know 11-year-olds would be like, "That's cool,"
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't see it. There was a scene that was shown on the trailer a couple of times where somebody was swearing. So
Yeah.
I was going to try to spot that on the campaign, but it's just in the trailer.
I believe you're probably talking about Ivory.
No, it was a person of color as they were running
Oh,
in front of a bunch of monitors.
right. That's yeah, he's one of the soldiers at the Colony Guard of Therese. They're part of a station that is a checkpoint for the ships coming in and out of the planet. And basically they're freaking out because the pirates have uploaded a virus to their mainframe and it's screwing them
okay.
up. So they know something's up.
So if somebody wants to back this, and I can't see why they wouldn't, you want to tell us about these tiers?
Well, they're pretty straightforward, I must say. Like
Okay.
I keep it very simple. Like the most that I have is a couple of tiers where you can get a poster either of the cover or of the fight scene that's, I think, somewhere toward the middle of the page. Both of which were done by Jason Krager.
Right here?
Yes. Yeah, that one, like, that's probably one of my favorite images of the new campaign.
So that's Wellington fighting Ivory, and is this Cyrus down here?
Yep.
Okay.
Is this a scene from the book, or is it more like a cover would be inspired by the book?
It's a page that's inspired from events that are going to happen in the book.
Okay, that's the tier I went with, was the poster that's not the cover.
Yes, indeed. And that is a great choice. Like I love I loved what Krager did with that, cuz it was funny, like I hadn't looked at the script in a hot minute when I handed it over, and I was just like, yeah, just come up with a couple of images based on the script or based on the previous copy, that issue that you think, it would speak to you. And he looked at, like, I had like one scene in there where I'd mentioned the electricity, and I didn't even remember it, and he rolled with it, and he made that those images. And immediately I decided to make this one the cover because of the fact that because of the fact that Wellington just has that psychotic look on his face.
Yeah, it's
Like-
a sick piece.
It definitely puts him out there as the big bad in this one. Yep.
But yeah, it's most of the tiers are just, it's getting a copy or 2 copies, 3 copies, and being able to, and there's like a few catch-up tiers where you'll get both issues. Very straightforward, and the idea was like I'm gonna try to add more poster tiers, particularly for like the email list. And I definitely, for a stretch goal, I've been talking with both 6 a.m. Comics and with Selena Hernandez, and we're going to do some chibi stickers.
Nice.
Got to get 6 a.m. on there.
Yeah,
He's-
not officially CG unless you have 6 a.m.
Yeah, he has been very generous.
Hey, Michael T just joined us. Hello.
But
Thanks,
yeah,
Pete.
I don't quite know why the campaign's been as slow as it has been. I think my biggest issue has just been exposure.
Mhm.
But if the worst should happen, if this campaign doesn't make it this time around, I'm gonna be relaunching early next year because it's too good, and I'm not quitting. Damn it.
No, it is good. Don't
Yes.
don't. It's so hard to ask creators, not especially people with smaller names or smaller campaigns. Please don't quit because you've got all this investment going into it that I'm not suffering. If you don't come out with the book, and it is like, no, I really like your book. Not that I don't know that my word carries much weight ever or anymore, one or the other, but I actually really like your book, and I want to.
Well, I appreciate the hell out of that. I mean,
I think even though you cut this one short for number 1 when you redid the campaign, you still accomplished character-wise. I expect less from shorter books, and you still accomplished getting us associated with the character, making him not a blank slate, putting us in situations and letting us be able to infer our own, our infer from his situation in order to empathize with him, while setting up a universe all in what is this, 32 pages for number
I
1?
think it's about 25.
Okay, I can't count, and so it's why do you have odd numbers? Don't do that to me. Oh, I see. There's a couple arts at the back. That's cool.
It was originally going to be 50, and so the idea
Yeah.
is I split it directly in half, 25 and 25.
But you've done, I think, what Vinny Tardamella did in his City of Venus floppy, which was 22. You did all that, and that's way better than. I don't mind a to be continued to feel a sense of completeness to a single issue, and I would expect more of an arc from a 100 or 80 page book, and I've seen them where they don't accomplish that in 50 pages.
Oh my lord! Thank you so much. I want to hear more from you.
Well, I don't. Okay, then I'll tell you this much. I read books when I'm going to bed, so sometimes I fall asleep in the middle and I get a little confused and I have to reread half the book, so it seems longer than it is. But one of the effects of trying to get through comics quickly is I don't remember characters' names. So sorry about that.
No, I mean I've been there.
Yeah, but you're writing
been
them.
there.
If you forget their names, it's a little different.
No, I mean like I've read books like God, I think the 2 books that I mainly remember the characters from the most are Blade Devil and God's Hand. And the reason I remember him from God's Hand is just because the main character is a famous guy from history. So, yeah.
Yeah, the
Uncomfortable
art on here is
silence.
phenomenal.
I really liked Blade Devil. I hope he comes out with a sequel to that.
Now, who is doing the art on the second half? Is that still going to be Simon?
Oh no. I have a new art team this time. The interiors for this issue are all going to be done by Juanito from Dwarves vs. Lions.
Okay.
And all the colors are being done by this guy named Marcos Martin, who's from Brazil. Really awesome stuff. And particularly chose those two because I feel like their styles kind of go along with the styles of render and press color.
Okay.
And I really liked Simon's work on the book as well. Simon really stepped in and helped me out because the whole thing is when we were halfway done with issue 1, Render just vanished off the face of the planet. Like, nobody has heard from him.
Yee.
God only knows if he's still alive. Like, I don't know. Like,
Oh,
it's
man.
freaky. And so I was panicking, like scrambling to find an artist, and Simon volunteered. And he
Nice.
even did it for like a reduced rate to help
Oh,
me
very
out.
nice.
So
I got that. Wow. I'm sorry. Bandito?
yeah, no worries. Just since we're on the topic of campaigns and stuff, and I know, as you said, you have been struggling. Fear not, because I mean, we all kind of go through highs and lows. Everybody can have difficulties that they didn't anticipate early on, and when it comes to anything that's worthwhile, it's going to have pushback. There's going to be something in the universe that says you need to earn this. So don't be discouraged by that, because the victories on the other side are always that much better. Be willing to abandon bad ideas. So if there's something that isn't working and you can identify it, do not hold on to it in order to try and maintain some status quo, and be open to people who are invested in being right, because they're going to give you ideas, and if those fall through, they don't want to be shown as being like
Wrong.
you know,
Mistaken.
some idiot or moron that can't, it doesn't have the wisdom to be talking. So hold on to those things. Hail Mo Biggs, great to see you, Papa.
Hey, Mo.
Great to see
Hey,
you.
I see the preview page at the end of this one says artwork by Bruce Patnod.
Yeah, I was originally gonna. He was originally slated to be the interior artist for issue 2, but I just found that as I had him do a couple of pages, and I just felt like the style didn't really work in particular for me.
Well, speaking of style, Sim. It surprised me when I saw Sim in the credits, but because his style was so much different from the promo material I had seen from Render Contender, and I could see where Sim seemed to be pushing his style a little bit to make it. Now that's not him. To make it closer to Render Contenders on some pages.
Yes, most definitely.
Like
I was
page.
very pleased because I was scared to death. I was like, "Oh God! Like I hope this doesn't look like a Frankenstein book," like.
It does drift more Sim a little bit later on, but the earlier pages especially, were you could tell he was kind of trying to make it really look not like his normal stuff. So.
Trying to
Oh,
dovetail it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of coming to the end here. So I'm going to give my final thoughts on our very heated debate. Definitely
I almost walked off like Kanye.
I know, right?
Oh, that would have been dramatic.
Which would get us the ratings. That's what we need. So yeah, it's said that age is just a number, but numbers matter. We're in a business of numbers. And when it comes to trying to understand ourselves and the value of the choices we made, it often comes down to what age we were when we made them.
That just sounds like you're believing that.
And these are my final thoughts, Blue. These are not, this isn't an argument for or against. And when we need to figure out if someone is accepted as an adult in our culture, age becomes the de facto setting. So therefore, age does matter. And ensuring each age has what it needs to develop in healthy ways also matters. So why have the comics, heroes of our youth, found themselves becoming geared for those too old to run out in the backyard and act out the heroism portrayed, within the pages? I mean, without terrifying the family dog and confusing our wives looking out the kitchen windows.
Yeah.
To me, To me, it seems akin to growing up with Santa. When we were young, we believed in the jolly man dressed in red that only wanted to reward our well-behaved selves with the most expensive toys we knew our parents could never get for us. Then we aged up and figured out, / had Christmas ruined by the older kids at school who told us that Santa wasn't real and that our parents probably let the bills slip that 1 month to get the only thing in the world that would bring us happiness that year. The magic of that was gone. But if that falsified magic was gone, and we know it wasn't always easy to keep it going, why did our parents pretend for us in the first place? Well, some of us had parents that pretended. I see Mo Biggs is in the chat. At least he's present now. Anyway. Why did they pretend for us in the first place? Because for them, the joy of passing on the magic of those childish things was a part of being an adult. Maybe even was a way for our parents to vicariously live through the joy that we now had. Enviably still naive in our developing worldviews. So have we aged up our comics because we don't want to lose those useful joys? Save the princess, stop the bad guy, keep the world safe. Do we still need that magic for ourselves? Is there a disconnect or something we didn't learn in how to pass it on to our next generation? Maybe the question isn't, are we interested in retaining only an adult audience? But have we as a culture lost the joy in passing on the magic to the next generation? And by extension, what are we teaching our kids to pass on to their next generation?
Ooh, deep thoughts. I
Yeah, this is
appreciate
heavy.
that took some time to put together, I'm sure, and that was very interesting.
No, I just wrote it and I just figured it out now as we were talking.
Awesome.
This debate pulled that all together.
I totally see where you're coming from with that, because just as an observer, I've noticed it seems like entertainment in general seems to appeal more to older and older people, and there is kind of a connection there. Although I think a lot of it comes from the fact that our generation in particular, we had like such a gamut of different stories that I think in some ways a lot of us, I'm mainly talking about myself, didn't grow up too much, like we kind of kept that sense of, like role playing and fantasizing. And that's ultimately why I became a writer, is that I like to be able to take my imagination and put it to use.
Very cool.
I'm really
Glad you
concerned
did.
for the. Oh, hello. I'm really concerned for the future, though. In terms of, we were given input from our parents. Maybe like I was handed a few small comics as a kid, the little Spider-Mans with the electric company thing on them or whatnot, and I saw a few left over from my older brother or whatnot. But if all we're giving our kids is consumption and not inspiration, and not making it, there's just a little more work you have to do to read than to watch video, if you know what I mean. The brain just has to do a little bit more. I really do fear for what you guys were talking about, that we're not giving our kids stories that teach them about humanity, or what it means to be human. That's what literature should be, is stories that are multifaceted in the way you can learn about people through, or just vicariously, sorry, forgot that word for a moment. Anyway, that you can learn vicariously through stories. And I don't see where we're shaping the next generation to have stories, to be inspired. I see where we're shaping the next generation to be easy,
Yeah.
I think you're right about that. I think that they are in a generation where everything is immediate, gratification is immediate. The generation that grew up with microwave dinners and gaming systems that bring better and better graphics, so that you have less and less of your own imagination to put toward it. So what we'll do, we are now at the top of the hour. So thank you all for participating. This is actually like that sound clip from the beginning that Blue had, which was "We will have a great debate," and it was cool. So Ben, I want to thank you for coming on, for joining this debate, for showing us your book, Outlaw Knights. This is part 2, Genesis of a Renegade. So we'd like to ask everyone to give that a chance. Get out there and back it. If you don't have the opportunity to back it, then please make sure you tweet it out there, post it on Facebook, all your socials, to get more eyes on his project.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Hail and well met.
Yep. Everybody, take care, and hope to see you next week.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.